Look! Look, the dynamic duo! I got
So, welcome guys to the Dynamic Duo. I'm Franz.
I'm Kevin. Welcome to the new Batcave in Avengers Tower, everybody. Welcome home.
Welcome home. Hey, listen, I want to start off by just showing off this wonderful piece of art that I got from a wonderful friend of mine by the name of Kevin Prysock. This is actually terrific artwork from Greg Horn. And dude, I mean, thank you so much for that. That is very, very cool. And I will cherish this forever.
You are more than welcome, cool. Captain America.
So listen, we have a lot of business at hand. Certainly what we're going to talk about is WandaVision episode 8. We're going to review that. And I'm dying to hear, we're late in our review, but what did you think?
There were elements of the episode that I did enjoy.
Okay.
And there were pieces of it that, even though they were doing the whole reaccounting thing, I thought they overdid it. It was almost too much of the episode and not enough explanation from the other side. I don't know if that makes sense, but I have a real problem with shows that structure themselves in the way that they do. Is basically, okay, this was your story, and we're going to backtrack everything, and this is just stuff you didn't see. Past a certain point, when television shows and even movies, when they do it sometimes, when that's done and that becomes your whole story, to me, that's nothing more than a trope, and you're throwing the audience a fish and literally saying, okay, go get it. I really have a problem with an entire show that's nothing more than, we did this already, you as the audience just didn't see it. If you remember a couple of weeks ago, I kind of said to you that I thought maybe they were putting together Sentinels. I realized that, I was off, of course, with the white vision kind of thing, but I literally did know or figured out that they were going to do something along that line of a new artificial intelligence. It was giving itself away too much, but I do want to see Friday, as I've said in the past, just to see how they wrap this thing up. And I do believe that they're going to give it a second season, but they've got some work to do.
I've got to agree with you. And that's why I love you, because again, the consensus is go along and follow the crowd and like what you're told you're supposed to like, or dislike what you're told you're supposed to like. Sometimes people just are contrarian just for the sake of being contrarian, but they don't realize they're following the herd just as much. But so the danger for me is in not wanting to be a hater. I don't want to be a hater. I don't want to hate just for the sake of hate. And it would be easy for me to fall into that trap because the last reviews weren't very positive of the show, and I could just continue to want to be right. But it's a matter of opinion, and I think that we should always be able to change or alter our opinion based on new fact and new evidence, and or keep that opinion. My review of episode 8 was that overall it was a disappointment. So there's good, the bad, there's the good, the bad, and the personal. And I think I'm going to keep that from now on when I review things. The good, the bad, and the personal. The good was that it tied up, or at least attempted to tie up, a lot of loose ends. It explained a lot of things. And I have to give you kudos and I have to give you credit, because once again, you brilliantly nailed it. You knew that there was something else going on besides Wanda, someone else pulling the strings. So kudos for that. You also knew that the reason why they were referencing these TV shows was because Wanda must have grown up watching these TV shows. That made perfect sense. And the show confirmed that. It gave why that span was so large, because typically you are of a generation, not a multiple decades generation. So it explained that. Another good was that there were some scenes that were pretty good. There were some scenes that were well delivered. Having said that, the bad, there's also the bad. And for me, the bad is you have to figure out what you are as a medium, as a show. Are you a dramatic show? Are you an action show? Are you a superhero show? Are you a campy, silly, quirky show? Or are you a dramatic show? One of the things that you cannot do, you can, for example, have a quirky show, a very quirky, silly, funny show that has dramatic moments in it. I think that's the Doom Patrol is a perfect example of that. It's a quirky show where a cockroach is making a speech. That's out of control quirky. Or you coming out of a donkey's butt. That's out of control quirky, but you can have intimate moments within that quirkiness. What you cannot do is you cannot go from a dramatic show and then have quirkiness in a dramatic show. So you can't be watching The Godfather and then have someone come in and say, well, I will rule the day. That doesn't work.
You can't see Al Pacino rubbing the white cat? Come on now.
Al Pacino cannot rub a white cat. He cannot say, Austin Powers, And so that's the confusion with this show. The show is, what are you? Are you a comedy or are you serious? Because the delivery of a lot of the scenes are comedic in a weak way for me. And for example, the delivery of Agatha Harkness, it's weak because it doesn't know what it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Is she a witch from the Salem witch trial? Is she a legitimate character? Or is she a cartoon character with a thing? And the delivery of that actress, and it's not even her fault, in my opinion. I would blame it more so on the production and on the director, because I'm sure these guys are following the dictate that they're given by their director. But it's a weak delivery, which weakens the whole show. When you watch from the very beginning, for example, the way that it opens, you can tell it's supposed to be a dramatic scene. It's supposed to be, oh my God, they're about to burn a witch at the stake. Mm-hmm. But I hate to say it, but critically speaking, not trying to be a hater, but the delivery of it was weak, in my opinion. It had no gravitas to
stole knowledge above your age and station. You practiced the darkest of magic. I know nothing of these crimes.
They simply bent to my power.
One of the examples is immediately upon, killing everybody, including her mother, she just walks off kind of very casually as if nothing happened, that kind of stuff. And it breaks into a scene with her talking to Wanda in the basement with the cat, literally going like this with the cat. I mean, literally playing that villain. And so that was throughout the show. So while there were some good scenes within the show that didn't have that, there was too much of that. And ultimately, it wasn't interesting to me. The twist wasn't that fascinating to me. And it wasn't, I don't know, it just didn't work for me. It just doesn't work for me, in my opinion.
Allow me to bow to your brilliance, because that's what I mean when I say that certain things in the show worked and others didn't.
Exactly.
And one of the things that bugged me, and it's not that I want people to view me as a complete complainer, as you've said, it's just being able to look at the material on an objective level and say, okay, storytelling wise, this is what works, and storytelling wise, this is what not works. or you have to retool this in order to get this right. One of the things that bugged me about the scene from the beginning with the burning scene, you go right from that right into her with Wanda. Pardon me, but what happened in between?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's the rest of the story?
Yeah.
See, this is where, and not that I'm some sort of genius or something, but this is where I've said they should have done something where she transformed herself into an older woman.
Yeah.
You should be able to see her as the depiction that the artist at Marvel gave you of Agatha as an old witch. That's what it should have been once they left that period in the past. And then if you want to bring her back to being Catherine Hahn, you know, allow her to make some stupid quip about, yeah, this is what I really look like, but I don't like it. It's not me. So, dearie, pardon me for a minute. And she literally snaps her fingers or whatever, like Samantha, and goes back to looking like Catherine Hahn. Okay?
Exactly.
That would work for me. Part of the trouble, and I don't know if you feel this way or not, and a lot of television shows and movies are doing this a lot nowadays, and I mean a lot. They're catering to the core audience, which is fine. Whether it's a Star Trek audience, a Marvel audience, DC Comics, whoever it is. And they're not writing and structuring these things so that if you are, and I'm just assuming, let's say it's your wife. I'm assuming that your wife is not the comic book fan that you are. So if she were to sit down and watch this, she's confused. The
Brilliant.
show is meant for me, you, Greg Horn, and anybody else that follows comics. This is a problem that Hollywood has gotten into, and they won't stop. It's a let's cater to the audience that we know we're going to get, and if mom and pop catch on, great. But otherwise, we already know we have an audience, so shut up, sit down, and watch the show. That's a mistake.
That's absolutely brilliant yet again, and you are in fact a genius, because you're absolutely right. I'm sure we're gonna get some haters because, again, what I said, there's a lot of groupthink mentality, and there's a lot of I'm Marvel, and no matter what Marvel does, it's great. There's a lot of positivity around WandaVision because it's supposed to be good. So I'm sure we're gonna get some haters, but here's a question that I would ask, and you know, referencing what you just said. If this wasn't Marvel, and if this wasn't WandaVision, and if this wasn't something that you were connected to and were interested in, would this be a good show? Would it keep your interest? Would it be interesting? Would it be entertaining? And I don't think the answer can be yes. I don't think so. Again, to reference what you were talking about before, the show is supposedly riddled with these Easter eggs throughout it, like little gems that you're supposed to. I'm watching a ton of YouTube videos where they're saying, well, you see, you don't understand. The brooch was from episode 163, and the color purple represents Agatha, and there's a whole bunch of clues, apparently. But dude, I'm not watching a show to solve a puzzle. I'm not a sleuth. What the hell?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm watching a show to be entertained. Now, if you have these things in an entertaining show, well, more power to you. That's neat.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to rely on that, my connection to Marvel, my knowledge to Marvel, and my investigating, because even if you know Marvel and you know backwards and forwards, you still have to investigate to figure out the little clues that they put like calling her what's her name? It wasn't Agatha Harkness in the beginning. It was like a mixture between the two names. Like, dude, like who's supposed to know that? You know, and you know, that's a failure. You're absolutely right. It fails in relying on the fans' connection a little bit too much and not delivering a product that anyone and everyone should enjoy.
The thing is, and this is where your absolute successes happen, and dare I say it, your middle of the road successes, and then your absolute failures.
Mm-hmm.
And if you'll allow me, deep down for any of this material, and I do mean any of it, you can handpick the ones that absolutely work. You can reach in a bag and say, okay, this one works because, this one works because, and on down the line. I can sit here right now and pick out 5 pieces from various properties that work with no problem, and you don't have to be a fanboy or fangirl to understand it because of the way it was structured.
Absolutely.
Wrath of Khan is one.
Absolutely.
Superman the movie is another.
Absolutely.
Okay. The first Avengers is another one.
Absolutely.
The way that movie was put together, you don't have to know everything about Captain America and all the other characters. The movie speaks for itself.
Absolutely.
It's done. Even though people have a problem with certain aspects of the Batman movies, in a lot of ways, the '89 movie speaks for itself. That's why that movie was such a hit.
Yeah, I may disagree with you on that one, but
Well,
but no, I'm sorry. That's another discussion. That's another discussion. But yes, it was in fact a huge hit. It was in fact a huge hit. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not jumping in because I want you to finish the thought. I think it can be summed up, and it's something that I've said many, many, many times. It can be summed up in one way. The closer you stick to the source material, the more successful you are.
yes, sir.
It's a simple formula, because if it was successful in the source material, there's a reason why it was successful in the source material.
Yes.
And so if you translate that, then that success continues. But go on. I interrupted.
I'm going to wrap up this little piece by saying this. Do you remember months ago when we were talking about The Rise of Skywalker?
Yes.
Okay. Part of why that movie failed, there are too many pieces that are in either the background or within the story structure itself that only makes sense to the diehard fans.
Mm.
And if you're not a diehard fan, you're sitting there literally looking at the movie saying, what the hell did I just watch?
Yeah.
That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
In all honesty, not to pick on your boy, that's what scares me about Snyder's Justice League. Because even though the movie looks better, at least by way of the trailers and commercials that they've shown, it almost reminds me of that Rise of Skywalker problem. If you don't know the dark side story, if you don't know who Steppenwolf is, outside of somebody that might be a fan sitting next to you saying, they did this because, you're going to be lost watching that movie. If you're not a fan, and I'm sorry, Fonz, there's no if, ands, or buts about it. You're going to be lost. Because the whole story is about the mother boxes and the other world part of it that eventually introduces the Justice League or brings them together.
If I may, so I agree with you 1,000%, first of all, on the aspect of sometimes they rely on the knowledge of the fans and they deliver a product that doesn't make sense to the person who doesn't know the connections in the stories. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a mistake. And that mistake has happened. Having said that, I don't think that means the story has to be this complicated, convoluted, I explain everything thing. I don't think that's what you're saying.
No,
I just think that it has to be, I'm sorry?
It's not. You're 100% correct.
That's not what at all you're saying. I think it just has to be presented in a way that makes sense. You know, I like the Justice League, and I'm unique in that, but I do like the Justice League movie. I like it a lot, as a matter of fact. And supposedly, to answer your concern, supposedly the Zack Snyder Justice League is going to expand upon that and flesh out stuff.
Okay.
Flesh out Cyborg's story, flesh out, Darkseid, flesh out Steppenwolf. I don't think we need to know a deep background on Steppenwolf. He's not that important of a character.
Right.
I think he could be identified as the villain, but supposedly that's going to happen in the Zack. That's why it's a 4-hour movie as opposed to a 2-hour movie. Having said that, I get what you're saying. I don't necessarily have that concern for the Justice League for the 2 reasons that I mentioned. A, it's expanded, it's 4 hours, so it's stretched out, so it should do that. And B, I don't necessarily need it to be some deep explanation, long-winded explanation. Listen, I watched what was it called? Damn it. Anyway, one of the animated series recently. I have a terrible memory, but I that's what I like, man. That's it. It's a DC movie, animated movie, and the delivery is clean. It's smooth. It's not too complicated. It's action packed. That's it. I don't need more than that. So yeah, I don't know that I share that concern necessarily for the Justice League movie, but we'll see. We'll see what the delivery is. So, but I share your concern. I hear what you're saying, and I certainly agree with you that that's what they did with WandaVision. There's too many tidbits within WandaVision that are exclusively not just for the fans, but for the diehard fans. There's a lot of crap. Listen, I'm Marvel through and through. I know Marvel inside and out. There's a lot of crap. I'm not gonna make those associations. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The color of something and the shape of something and the hexagon. There's all kinds of connections, and Agatha Harkness and the runes and dude, that's not why I'm watching a television show.
Right.
And to reference your connection, when you watch The Mandalorian, you're watching a show that gets it, that gets what it's about. It's The Mandalorian is not overly complicated. It's not overly deep. They don't overly flesh out. We don't know within the Mandalorian Ahsoka's background. We don't know what's the other character played by Gina Carano. We don't necessarily have a deep backstory for her.
Right.
But it's presented in a way that works because it's cool, because it's fun, because it's coherent. And that's why we watch it. And that's what we didn't get from this series. It wasn't cool. It wasn't fun. It wasn't interesting. It wasn't deep. It wasn't complex. The delivery was overall, the performances. One last thing that I'll say on it. I have to give kudos to, is it Bill Bellamy? The actor who plays the Vision? Not Bill Bellamy.
Paul Bettany.
Paul Bettany. Bill Bellamy, Jesus Christ. He must be on my friend. But that actor who plays the Vision, every scene is stellar in my opinion.
He's not really injured.
How can you be certain?
It's not that kind of show.
I've never had a loved one to lose, but what is grief if not love persevering?
Every scene is stellar. He brings a gravitas that is just consistent. Even when he's playing the sitcom character, every scene is stellar. And when he's the Vision, There's a truth behind his eyes that just works. It happens at times for Wanda and not at times. But the other characters, Jimmy Woo performances were, not a reflection on the actor, but there were a lot of weak performances, in my opinion.
Agreed. Agreed.
This looks like a job for Superman.
Hey, look! It's Spider-Man!
The dynamic duo return next week. Don't miss it.